Thanks everyone for popping in. We're going to get this thing started. I'm Kyle, run social here at Avalanche, and really excited for our three partner guests here from Alpha Venture, Aperture, and Pangolin. And yeah, excited to talk about some new innovations, some new product happening on Avalanche, and of course, thanks everyone for joining. We got a great AMA coming up, and then at the end we will do a Q&A for the audience. So as we wrap up the questions, we'll let you know, and you can request to be a speaker, and we'll pull you up and get some questions in here. And then, as always, we'll be dropping a recording of this Spaces on our YouTube channel within the next few days. So let's jump into some intros. We're going to start off here with Sarada. Why don't you give a quick intro on yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarada, Director of Business Development for DeFi products at Alpha Venture now. So we build DeFi products that bridges market gaps. Our flagship product is Alpha Homora, which is the world's first multi-chain leverage yield farming and lending protocol with $2 billion at its peak TVL back in DeFi summer. We currently operate on 4 chains on Avalanche, Ethereum, Optimism, and Phantom. And we offer boosted yields by building on top of blue chip DEXs like Pangolin, Uniswap, Curve, SushiSwap, Trader Joe. And we serve many institutional users in farming and lending in a permissionless way.
Amazing, amazing. Thanks for joining us, and it's been great to see all the work you guys have been doing over the years. Jumping over to Steven. Steven, want to give a quick hello?
Yes, indeed. I'm Steven. I'm head of strategy at the Pangolin team, where I work with a lot of just top degens in the space, like a lot of awesome people building and partnering with a lot of other top protocols, and it's really just been a fantastic ride. I got into crypto in like 2016 or so. I actually was a power user of Alpha Homora during DeFi summer, and jumped into Avalanche like really excitedly. Was quite an active yield farmer on Pangolin. Got involved in the ecosystem really heavily about a year and 2 months ago. Pleasure to be on the panel.
Yeah, pleasure to have you, and thanks for the support as always. It's been great to see some of the stuff you're been contributing to. So we'll jump over to McDavid. McDavid, you want to give us a quick intro?
Hey, yeah, I'm McDavid. I'm one of the core contributors at Aperture Finance, focusing on marketing strategy, BD. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Aperture Finance, we're basically like an on-chain structured products protocol. And structured products is like a TradFi term that basically, the simple way to describe it in DeFi is it's basically automated vaults that are designed to get yield in a certain type of market. And kind of our specialty thus far has been the so-called pseudo delta neutral strategy, which is basically in the LP farming world where you try to maintain zero delta exposure. So basically be equally long and short. And currently we have a vault built on top of Alpha Mora, built on top of Pangolin that we're going to get into today that basically allows you to leverage yield farm on the Pangolin DEX. While maintaining downside protection as the vault will automatically rebalance. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, excited to hear more about it. So really going to be a great discussion today. And we got Matt, BD on the DeFi side from Avalabs. Matt, you want to say hello and kick things off?
Yeah, sounds great. I guess first off, I want to warn everyone I do have a delicious dinner sitting in front of me, so if there are any awkward pauses, that's might be I probably have a bite in my mouth or something. Yeah, my name is Matt Schmank. I'm a part of the business development team here at Avalabs. Avalabs is the servicing firm behind the Avalanche network. Um, I'm sort of focused on DeFi within my job, but I've kind of turned it in turned into a do-it-all BD person now, where I help quite a bit with DeFi, institutional and capital markets. I lead our external data efforts and help out with infrastructure and tooling quite a bit as well. Yeah, I've been here at Avalabs for about a year now, and before Avalabs, I started off in traditional finance for a bit. Um, I'm on level 3 of the CFA and kind of have personal interest in kind of general macro markets and stuff going on in the more traditional finance world as well as the crypto world. Um, yeah, it's a little bit about myself and excited to get it kicked off. So, maybe we could start off with protocol introductions if anyone wants to touch, I guess, on a little bit more about what their respective protocols do. Alpha Hamura, I'll turn it over to you first.
Sure. So a brief intro about what leverage yield farming is and what problem it solves for those who might be new to leverage yield farming. So the problem that we're solving is the pain points that people are facing in traditional yield farming, and there are four key problems that Alpha Homura is solving. So the first problem is that when you farm on traditional DEX with limited capital, it gives you lower yields. But with leverage yield farming, you can borrow external liquidity to increase your yield farming positions and earn higher trading fees and farming rewards from the underlying DEX without having to earn all the capital. So that's the first benefits of leverage yield farming. The second leverage yield farming benefits is that so with Alpha Homura, you can supply just a single asset or single-sided liquidity providing, and we offer flexible borrowing of multiple assets compared to traditional yield farming where you have to supply both sides of assets and equal value to open farming positions. So we offer more convenience for users. And the third value proposition is that we offer automated and unified borrowing and farming in one platform compared to if you have to borrow from one platform and then farm on another platform. So we reduce the customer and the user journey. And also, the last problem that we're solving is that so Alpha Homura offers higher capital efficiency through under collateralized borrowing from Iron Bank compared to, let's say, if you borrow from like over collateralized platform like RVA Compound, then that would give you lower capital efficiency. So in overall, with Alpha Homura, you can borrow external liquidity, farm on underlying DEXs like Pangolin, and then earn higher rewards from the increasing yield farming positions.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. Steven, I'm going to turn it over to you next. I know our audience probably knows what Pangolin already is, but always good to have a refresher.
Yeah, for sure. So Pangolin has, like, over time, had over 3,000 active trading pairs on the DEX, generated around $17 billion of total trading volume in our history. And as a community-run DEX, like, we are always working with new protocols to bring opportunities to users. Just as a DEX, you can always find cool assets and have the highest level of security as you're acquiring those assets. We're really just trying to give the experience of using a Web 2 product, but truly being Web 3 native at the same time. We're doing some cool stuff to decentralize our front end with a project that's maybe lesser known within our roadmap of it's called Honeycomb. So basically, any developer who is making a dApp can add DeFi to their front end very quickly. To embed swapping or bridge swapping, and we're doing a lot of innovation with like custom contracts and some stuff that we think is going to test the boundaries of DeFi.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And McDavid, I know you already gave a great explanation as to what Aperture does, but is there anything that you wanted to add before we kind of hop into more in-depth questions?
Yeah, I'll just add a tiny bit more color. I mean, Aperture, I get like the problem we're solving by building structured products in DeFi is basically um, creating automation for users to simplify what could be a bunch of different steps and different transactions and ongoing maintenance you would have to provide to run a particular position. We tried to like simplify that all into one click so that the market thesis or the type of strategy the person wants to run can be done with one click and then managed on chain by a smart contract versus having to like actively manage a position every day. That's kind of what the problem Aperture is solving.
I feel like it's very much like democratizing access to like really elite financial strategy at the end of the day. It's a pretty awesome mission, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. We say like democratizing hedge fund strategies. That's kind of like our tagline on the landing page.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so I guess um, your three protocols, a lot of people might not think they have a ton in common. I guess how did the partnership form between the three?
I can probably take that one to start. So Aperture, like we did not start on Avalanche. We actually our thesis from day one was always omni-chain. You know, we wanted to build these automated vaults, so-called structured products, on various chains, but we happened to start on what is now called Terra Classic. um, and we built a kind of similar pseudo delta neutral strategy on Terra Classic that had really awesome product market fit that was further boosted by the like anchor earn yield. And that strategy had a really short but kind of exciting life cycle of about 6 weeks, where it went from 0 to 120 million in TVL. Obviously, everyone knows the rest of the story there. The DPEG happens to Terra, and then Aperture kind of starts quickly doing some soul searching of like, okay, we basically have to start from 0. We've got some expertise building like an on-chain rebalancer, which is kind of a crucial aspect of these pseudo delta neutral strategies. You have to rebalance and swap to get things back to delta neutral. And so with that in mind, we started kind of like shopping around for various opportunities across different chains. We really ended up focusing on Solana and Avalanche. There's two leverage yield farming protocols on Solana that did not have an automated vault. And then, of course, Alpha Homura on Avalanche as well, which did not have an automated vault. So, like, okay, great, let's explore both of these in tandem. And this is now we're talking like July 2022. And we worked on the Solana piece for a while, and it quickly became apparent that the team working on the Avalanche pseudo delta neutral strategy was going to be able to launch a lot quicker. So then and that's just pretty typical of Solana versus EVM chains, but I think it's always great to give a real world example of like literally the exact same strategy was 50% quicker to market if done on Avalanche. And yeah, so once we kind of realized that, we basically at that point reached out to Alpha Homura as we were having questions about the integration. The team's been super, super supportive, answering questions as if they're, as if we're in the same Slack channel. It's, instant getting immediate feedback, which has been great. And then shortly after that, we sort of, after we launched, the Penguin pool started to do particularly well, and that was when we got in touch with the Penguin team to further solidify that partnership. Yeah, I guess Steven, Serrata, anything else y'all want to add?
I think that's a really like holistic like summary. Parties all taking place on Avalanche, and I think that there's this really cool space to build products on top of decentralized finance applications and really leverage composability. And I think this kind of conversation today really highlights that.
Sure, I can add a little bit more on that. Is that this is like a great example of a cross protocol collaboration that every parties win from this. As Aperture builds pseudo delta neutral strategies on Alpha Homura, which is one of the popular use case on the farming side for institutional users on Alpha Homura as well. As you can do both like leverage long, leverage short, and Alpha Homura, and you can actively manage that to get market neutral yields. And also, the underlying DEX like Pangolin will also benefit from this traction as well. So we have seen good responses from these strategies built by Aperture Finance, and it's contributing quite a large percent, like I think like 7% of TVL to Alpha Homura.
Yeah, thanks for that, guys. Um, yeah, it's kind of funny. I actually call I generally call these like second order effects of DeFi. So once you have most of the DeFi primitives covered, then you get these really interesting structured finance products and strategies and whatnot built on top using them. So I think Avalanche is at a super good spot in its maturity and its DeFi ecosystem to really allow for these second order effects. But McDavid, I don't know if you remember this summer, our initial conversation. I forget where we got the introduction, maybe a team building within Terra or um, Terra itself. But it was me, you, and Luigi, and it was definitely at the kind of idea phase. And it's really cool to see you guys now come to fruition, have a super successful vault here.
Yeah, that's right. We did chat way back when. And you're spot on about structured products being like something that can only exist in a very mature blockchain ecosystem. Um, we get questions a lot about like Terra 2, like that community still asks when we're going to build there. And the fact of the matter is that ecosystem is just not built up enough for structured products to work because you need really solid DEXs, you need protocols like Alpha Homora to build on top of, and they need to have enough liquidity and TVL within them to support a structured product. So yeah, I think that definitely speaks to the like what is capable on more mature chains like Avalanche, where there is enough liquidity to start doing some of these more like mature structured product type plays.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I always call it for DeFi protocols, kind of minimum threshold of liquidity, in which that um, if you don't have that minimum, then there's kind of degraded performance within the platform. So it might not work like how it's supposed to work, the platform, or there might be exorbitant slippage or something in that regards. So definitely important. And like you said, I think a lot of these only work within more mature ecosystems, these strategies and whatnot. So yeah, I guess turn it over to the next question. So um, the problems that your guys' DeFi protocols are all solving, they kind of strip away the need for like a centralized entity or player. What value do you aim to bring to DeFi in the long term? And I guess how do you see DeFi working against those centralized players? Do you think there's a role in which they work together in harmony? Do you think people should be kind of decentralization maxis, or what exactly do you think best user practice would be in the long term for protecting their assets and whatnot? Uh,
I can
you
jump
got it,
in
Steven? You're
there.
taking that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I figured I'd delay for a second, but I don't know. I think it's a really rich question, and I think one of the things that you see when you think about a protocol is you know tokenomics and like TVL and all stuff like that, and like we can talk about um, all the unique things we've built until we're blue in the face. But like when you start to really think about growing the space, a lot of it comes back to people and like building together. I think one of the things that I've just really experienced by being a part of the Pangolin team and working with awesome builders like Aperture, Alpha Homora, the Ava Labs team, fantastic. I think it's about like being able to help bring up other builders in the space too, and like advising on things. I know at Pangolin we have very rich experience with DeFi, and we can help people advising on how to seed liquidity. We help with super farms to launch liquidity mining campaigns, helping with the strategy there. And also, you just don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. So, we built this whole front end SDK that, it's kind of like our mission to evangelize right now. So people kind of like know that they can just have like their pools natively on their own site and like swaps natively on their own site and stuff like that. With this next like sort of evolution of the Avalanche network too, subnets and warp messaging, I think there's going to be a lot of there's just so much opportunity that it unlocks. I also think there's like new challenges and like new puzzles to solve, and I think as we solve those, we can really just work with the ecosystem to kind of cross pollinate things.
Awesome. McDavid or Alpha Hamura, you have a response as well, or do you want to move on to the next question?
I'm good on my side.
Awesome. I guess we'll move on to the next question then. Um, yeah, so I guess this one's a more general question for everyone. How's everyone been during the bear market, and how has it specifically impacted your guys' protocols?
Should we do a little like snake draft here? I can start.
Yeah, let's go one by one this time. You're gonna start, Steven. Yep.
Bear markets always are kind of tough, like it definitely squeezes some things. I think, the team did a very good job of kind of like managing things. And we've, been in this really awesome situation where we just like get to keep building and keep really, focusing. I feel like, the silver lining of the bear market is that it's really a time when there's less, there's still plenty of shiny things, right? But there's less shiny things to distract your attention. And I feel like the rate that we've been building at has kind of really been impressive lately. So there's always downside to bear markets, but I think that it's also providing a lot of opportunity to really focus further. And I think that the real builders and like the real cool tech is shining through.
McDavid, you go next.
Yeah, I guess like one maybe unique nugget from Aperture's perspective on the bear market is since we are building structured products, we have to think about the shelf life of these strategies. So like the classic pseudo delta neutral strategy, you're sort of inherently taking the bet that volatility is going to be relatively low to the point that the rebalancing required to like protect against liquidation or severe and permanent loss is not going to outpace the fees you're accruing. And that's just one type of strategy. But what we have to think of in general is like, okay, we're in a particular type of market, but like 12 months from now or 2 years from now, what sort of strategies that we could build today would still have a use case? And this is kind of something that's, I guess, a bit more interesting to think through as you kind of have to imagine like where the market could go and like what sort of strategies people are going to need in the future. So yeah, I guess that's just sort of one interesting sidebar from Aperture's perspective. Because like for example, the previous vault we had on Terra Classic, that was like a bull market vault. That was something that could only work when like the tokenomics or the Ponzi-nomics was running strong on Anchor Earn. And it was a great strategy for a bull market, but it's not something that works in a bear market. It's not something that's going to work in the in-between market either. So, yeah, those are the kind of questions I guess Aperture grapples with because it's a lot of work to build an automated vault, and you want to make sure they have, enough shelf life to justify the labor up front.
Makes sense. So, Rada, you want to go next?
Sure. So, been through like the bear market, with Alpha Omar, we're still bullish and we're even more bullish going forwards. So we were fortunate we were not as affected by the FTX crisis because we didn't have exposure to FTX, both on Treasury and also activities on Alpha Omar. And um, most of the active institutional users are mostly crypto native and they do most of the on-chain and DeFi activities. So we still see capital inflow into the lending and farming sides in the millions range, even after all the CeFi collapse and all the FTX collapse. And you can also see like the DeFi DEX volume like spiked between like October and November last year. So in our opinion, I think it will shape the narrative to help give more importance towards CeFi and become more significant and bullish throughout this year, even though it might take like a quarter to pick up a bit and waiting for like FUD to die down a little bit. in the market. But we do see like increasing benefits of decentralization with the help of DeFi gain more market share. For example, like transparency, censorship resistance, immutability, permissionless on-chain activities, and like self-sovereign custody of assets as well that CeFi platforms um, may not be able to deliver these value proposition as well as DeFi. And another key drivers is that DeFi yields are higher than TradFi yields in general. So with the permissionless way and the lack of intermediaries that charge agency fees. So we're doubling down our efforts into strengthening and scaling the DeFi products and also offer more.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting because it becomes more apparent during the bear market and clear about really who's going to be here for the future, who was in it for kind of short term or personal gains and whatnot. So, especially even at a protocol level, but even as a chain level, you can see the strong builders that are continuing to build during the bear market, continuing to deliver and have a strong vocal voice and trying to support their users and community members. Um, yeah, I guess touching upon community members, how have you guys maintained community engagement, positivity, and a strong community um, within your user base? Stephen, I guess I'll go with you first if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we have a really excited, community that's been testing some of like the new products we are experimenting with, and I think that's inspired a lot of like confidence and the kind of like level of new technology we can create. Like, we've done some cool stuff, starting to experiment with like loyalty schemes, alternatives to like V tokenomics and stuff like that that are made right out of our engineering team, home brewed within Pangolin. I think these technological advancements really do engage the community and build that degree of trust that you're in it for the right reasons. I think we really do lean in on like have a ton of respect for our incredible mods on Discord and stuff like that too, and highly encourage aping into the chats there if you haven't already.
McDavid, I know Aperture launched during the bear, so I'm sure that was a challenging environment to launch in itself. Maybe you could kind of touch more about that launch and learning experiences, what was successful, how to build a strong community, and how to keep those community members positive.
Yeah, Aperture. I mean, our community is definitely way less vibrant than it was at the peak of the bull market. That's There's no way around that. But as far as the launch went, we were pretty happy, and I guess it's no secret in DeFi that whales drive a lot of the TVL. And Aperture, we made a point to build really strong relationships with some of those bigger whales that we had from the Terra days, and luckily enough of them were willing to come over and join us on Avalanche, so we were able to have, from a TVL standpoint, a pretty strong launch.
Yeah, I was actually shocked. You guys had basically day one, like a few million of TVL, if I'm not mistaken. So congratulations on that. That's super exciting. Um, Sarada, if you want to touch upon your community as well, if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Sure. So throughout the bear market, we've been building stronger relationships with existing users and also institutional users who love our product and actually been sticking through with our product since launch. So we reach product market fit for like crypto native institutions like crypto hedge funds and DeFi funds that are comfortable in deploying assets in a permissionless way, without the need for like heavy KYC and regulatory processes. So it's important to retain these group of users, and we constantly get like um, product feedback and instant support to help them do leveraged farming and lending on our platform effortlessly. And we have like our BD team, product team to help facilitate these matters. For example, like if users want to list new assets or new farming pools, and if they're looking for like new yield strategies that matches their requirements, then we'll be like right on the spot, and also like supporting our partners like Aperture as well. And we're continuing to grow like cross community collaboration and expanding our integration pipeline to increase like use case of the protocol as well. Like in bear market, I think what works in bull market doesn't always work in bear market, and we've shifted our strategies towards like more sustainable and long term building of the protocol, delivering like real yields instead of like driving traction by giving out liquidity mining rewards back in DeFi summer. Um, and we've seen quite positive results. TVL has been quite sticky throughout the bear market.
Yeah, I actually think a lot of these vault protocols and strategy protocols, they launched during the perfect time. And McDavid, you might be able to provide more color about it, like your guys' delta neutral or crab strategy and the success that it's seen. So that might be good to kind of explain the back testing, what went into finding that strategy, and kind of how the results have gone so far.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about, so currently on Aperture, if you go to app.aperture.finance, you'll see we have like two genres of the pseudo delta neutral strategy. One is you enter it with stable coins, and you accrue yield in stable coins. And the other is you're entering with like AVAX or bridged Bitcoin or bridged ETH, and you're accruing yield in kind and those volatile tokens. But really, for all the strategies, there was a really solid period right when we launched, basically in Q4, where even despite the FTX event, volatility was low enough that the yield was pretty solid. Of course, that's been a bit rockier the past like 2 weeks or so as we've had this little mini rally across crypto. But yeah, a lot of the vault users who were with us um, from early November, late October when we launched had a pretty solid Q4 in terms of yield, and you can kind of see if you click into the returns of like the USDT AVAX vault or the USDC AVAX vault, that both did pretty well in particular. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Yeah. So I guess how do you guys envision the narratives around DeFi, decentralized exchanges, etc., changing over the next year? What kind of general trends do you think we'll see, or what will work well, or what won't work well? I guess what do you guys see the future for DeFi really turning into in the next year? Steven, I'll let you take this one.
It's definitely such a loaded question. It's like really hard to predict. And if I had the magic answer for that one, I would totally tell you. But I think there's going to be just like constant evolution. I think a lot of the primitives have been figured out, and like the stuff that was like available in like DeFi summer, I think was very easy for everyone to participate in, which is I think really matches a lot of the ideals and ethos that Web3 strives for. I think what's starting to happen now, like you were saying, with like second, maybe even third order like stuff happening in DeFi, you're starting to have like more advanced protocols. I think just like managing liquidity in a Uni V2 or like a kind of like traditional DEX way is in itself pretty easy, but it's still got some complexity to it. And then when you start to look at something like concentrated liquidity solutions, managing that liquidity is definitely a more high maintenance job, and you're gonna have to spend more time managing it. There's kind of a lot more ability to customize your risk, but also a lot more thought and like ongoing awareness you have to kind of keep on it. That creates tons of opportunities for structured products. So I think there'll be a lot more evolutions there, and I'm kind of curious to see like what degree of complexity is actually the right balance for DeFi.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess while we're on that subject, does Pangolin have any thoughts about concentrated liquidity dexes? Do you guys plan on doing anything in that category, or are you guys in like the exploratory phase? Anything that you can leak?
What am I supposed to say? So I feel like the short answer is it's definitely something being very like actively researched. I think we want to make a calculated decision about how to like venture into the concentrated liquidity space. You can definitely uh, know for sure that there's quite a number of people on the team who are deep degens, actively playing and managing Uni V3 types of positions. So there's also a couple of people who have like participated in like audit competitions within the like Pangolin engineering team who have like kind of found ways to improve various concentrated liquidity provisioning contracts to make them more gas efficient and stuff like that too. So we're actively already kind of like participating in the space. But when a product will roll out, it might be a big deal, but it might we'll kind of share a little bit more about timing in the near future, I believe.
I can also add on to that as well. So I do agree with both parties that like concentrated liquidity can be really a benefit for um, the DeFi products. For example, like Alpha Homura, we leverage on top of Uniswap V3 on Optimism, and we're the first to do that. And we've seen very positive results, getting good organic traction without the need to give out liquidity mining rewards as well. And also, concentrated liquidity helps to um, reduce like impermanent loss and give users higher capital efficiency as well. So, yeah, we're looking forward to see what Pangolin will bring to the table. And yeah, I do agree that concentrated liquidity could be one of the exciting things that we can look forward to in terms of DEX upgrade.
Can I add like a sub question in for like everyone else too? There's some really cool stuff about liquidity mining within concentrated liquidity too. Like you would target rewards to incentivize people who are providing liquidity that is in range. So you can like reward kind of like the people who are collecting the most fees and like supporting the market the most. I think there's kind of cool potential there for structured products. Is that something that you guys have researched at all?
I can talk a little bit about what Aperture has looked at on the concentrated liquidity side. So we, I guess like a week or two ago, released our backtest research that we did for a leverage pseudo delta neutral strategy on Uniswap V3. We looked at basically ETH USDC across all the major Uni V3 chains. And that strategy did incredibly well during Q4 when volatility was relatively low. We were seeing like, depending on the amount of leverage you had, annualized returns over 100%. With like, if you choose minimal leverage, it'd be like 20%. So that's fairly interesting. But as you've mentioned, there's a lot of active management that goes into these like concentrated liquidity positions, and the more and more CLMM farmers that we talk to, we realize everyone's kind of doing something a little bit different, and there's a lot of people that are incorporating like light technical analysis or using these positions to like DCA into a coin or to like basically set limit orders to sell out of a particular coin. So there's a bunch of different ways people use those LP positions. And so Aperture, we're trying to figure out like what is the best tool from a structured products perspective to build. And we're actually currently doing interviews. If anyone on this call is actively doing a lot of farming on any CLMM concentrated liquidity DEX, please DM the Aperture handle or my handle. We're offering like 50 USDC to current farmers and to see like what some of their pain points are, and if they have strategies that could benefit from any degree of automation.
Yeah, McDavid, have you actually talked to the Stake Hut team at all, or are you interested in maybe collaborating with them? Because, like you said, I think you almost need specific quants for these concentrated liquidity dexes that know how to optimize best for that specific LP position that um, the strategy might be in. And so that's something to think about as well. Have you guys reached out to the stake cut team?
No, no, we haven't. Would love an intro.
Awesome.
Chat
Yeah,
offline.
finding live connections, but amazing. Yeah, I guess kind of my own vision for where DeFi is going. I think hopefully we find a derivative or options protocol that can solve the liquidity issues of on-chain options. Um, I'm looking forward to Dexalot launching their central limit order book on chain. I think clubs on chain have to be on their own kind of specific app chain or subnet or something in that regards. And so I think if that goes well, it'll be kind of a testament as to the power of subnets. And then I think two other trends we'll see is a proliferation of more real world assets on chain and those RWAs being used within kind of DeFi protocols as we know it, both in a semi permissioned and permissionless manner, as well as maybe real more, I guess, use cases for stablecoins in terms of like payments. So I think there could be something creative happening on the subnet front regarding payments and maybe some sort of foreign exchange or something like that. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
my own personal view.
Matt, I second that about the options coming on chain. Without giving away too much, like Aperture's done a good bit of research in the like DeFi option space, and one thing we noticed when we were talking to a lot of the like buy side of these DOV vaults, so people who use like Ribbon or Friction or Theta Nuts, those protocols typically like sell to market makers who then sell the same option on Deribit, and just kind of like it's like arbitrage because the options on chain aren't priced fairly. So I definitely second that sentiment of like bringing more and more of that options activity on chain so that retail users who are using these DOVs aren't getting wrecked by the kind of arbitrage opportunity that can happen if you're not directly selling on Deribit.
Yeah, and that's kind of my feelings as well about the current options offering on chain. So it'll definitely be interesting seeing that space grow within the next 6 months to a year. Um, yeah. So I guess wrapping it up here, um, could you guys share your upcoming roadmap for 2023 and then anything that is public that you can share along with it? I guess we'll start in reverse order. McDavid, if you want to go first, and then Steven last.
Yeah, I touched on this already, but Aperture is going to be launching tools and automated vaults for concentrated liquidity positions, probably on Uniswap v3 on Ethereum mainnet to start, but we will expand to other dexes and other chains after that. Look for something in like early Q2.
Alpha Hamora, you want to pitch in?
Sure. So we're quite bullish on Alphamore. We're growing a lot of activities in different chains. So we still see sticky usage on Alphamore even after market turbulence on ETH mainnets and L2. So we're continuing to build on that. I think we did leak some info that we're exploring to expand our Uniswap V3 leverage liquidity providing onto ETH mainnet as well. And so that might be like an upcoming roadmap that you can expect to see. And we're also doubling down our efforts to currently developing the platform, and we're potentially bringing new upgrade, quite a big upgrade for this one as well, towards like end of Q1. So stay tuned for that and subscribe to our channel. And with current existing product offering, we'll continue to increase protocol composability, building integration pipeline, growing our integration hub with different partners to bring in more youth strategies that users love, and also maintaining high security standards. Like after all the CFI collapse, I think strong risk management is quite important, and users are seeking healthier risk-adjusted returns and higher capital efficiency in any market conditions. So we're strengthening our security both on more rigid token listing framework. We're audited by top firms, and we also have like active bug bounty program, insurance options, and whitelisting contracts for integrated partners. So we're ensuring higher security to both the community and users. And we're also continuing to support institutional users and retail users to ensure high and deep liquidity. So we can support market turbulence and maintain strong growth going forward.
I'll come in there and follow that. That's an awesome roadmap. These are just really cool teams to be building alongside, and thanks for like the space to join with you guys. I think like with Pangolin, our focus is always on the community and on like making like really awesome ways to get involved in DeFi, not just for the community but also for like partners building the space. And I think like a lot of our roadmap is aligned with it. We've launched something very cool with Honeycomb, and it just allows you to take basically any part of the Pangolin website and put it on your own dApp. So one of the coolest things that we've launched recently is a product called Bridge Swap, and you're just going to see tons of like other widgets that you can add that'll be powered by Pangolin contracts behind the scenes, but it's really an exercise in decentralizing the front end. Bridge Swap is kind of this like super powered example of that, where if you're a project with a token on Avalanche, Friends at Lost Worlds come to mind, for example, or plenty of others. If you wanted to swap into Lost from any chain and you just want to get your Lost token on Avalanche, with Bridge Swap, they're able to do that. You can, with one transaction, take ETH. It'll automatically get bridged over to Avalanche and swapped in the most efficient path through to Lost, or really any token. So people can customize this and like put it on their sites. I think that's like a really big thing that we did for the space, and we plan to do a lot more of that. So if you go to like the bridge button on Pangolin, I think that's going to be what brings a ton of users into the Avalanche space. And I think that just also creates so much more opportunity for all of the structured products that are happening as well.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm so excited about for Avalanche, hopefully in 2023 and kind of going forward, even touched upon it a little. The main two that were already announced are related to elastic subnets or permissionless subnets that open up their validator set, and so anyone can permissionlessly join as long as they have the correct staking or validator requirements, as well as AWM or Avalanche Warp Messaging, and that's essentially using BLS signatures along with the P chain to hopefully trustlessly and permissionlessly pass messages from subnets to subnets as well as subnet to C chain. But yeah, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think we have a total of maybe 2 to 4 subnets launching, depending if everything goes well, and some are public and some are not. So I'll just say stay tuned to Avalanche's official Twitter for more information and tons of exciting announcements. But yeah, thank you guys so much for attending the Twitter space, and maybe we'll open it up to the floor for questions now, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Matt, and thanks our special guest for joining us today. Lots of really great information and diving into some of the innovative stuff that's happening and on Avalanche. And so if anybody has any questions for our guests, request to be a speaker. Remember, you have to be on mobile to be able to speak on spaces. But yeah, if you want to drop a question here, come on up. And if not, I'm sure you could DM any one of our guests here to find out more and to potentially partner on some different innovative things that are happening. So if anybody has a question, we'll give it a minute to jump up here. But while we wait, Steve, I don't know if you had something to drop in.
Yeah, I can put out a question and we can take it off the table if anyone has other questions from the community. But since we have this cool panel of different structured product experts and DeFi experts, with warp messaging stuff coming out and all of the subnet stuff, Do you think there's going to be any cool like cross-chain structured products in the near future? Like a
Yeah,
subnet, like like I think that's like like leveraging warp seems like a really like big no-brainer as some of those subnets become more and more like solidified.
yeah, I think it's kind of dependent on the latency of word messaging and depending on what the specific DApp is trying to do that's on their kind of own subnet. So I think we will see more and more DeFi subnets during the next 6 months to a year in kind of application specific subnets, whether they're a perpetuals protocol that uses a subnet with multiple blockchains for each different market or something along those lines. So I think there could be very, very interesting democratization of like market making on subnets, structured finance protocols, using market making almost as a service and democratizing it for like kind of greater access to yield or delta neutral strategies or something in that regards or I think the kind of the possibilities are totally limitless where if you gave me a full hour to talk about this I could come up with kind of a total vision and roadmap for what I see and how subnets really will interact within DeFi. So I'll turn it over to McDavid as well if he has any thoughts about it.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific there, unfortunately. I will just say, like, in general, when you're designing one of these automated vaults, so far, if you add in, like, the more cross-chain functionality or subnets functionality you're adding in, the more complicated it gets to build. So that's definitely one caveat, but this is something we're relatively familiar with from the Cosmos space, so I think it's definitely possible. But yeah, we haven't really dove into this yet. We need to wait until some good core protocols get built in some of these subnets before the structured products will show up.
That makes a lot of sense too. And I can ask questions until I'm blue in the face. I think we only have a few more minutes, but if anyone's like warming up for a question, feel free to like ask away. The like with something like Aperture, like do you know like if an individual was going to run a crab pseudo delta neutral strategy themselves, how many would they have to make like 15 transactions a day on average to do that? And it's like the Aperture structured products are just doing that in aggregate for the whole portfolio. Are there any like cool stats on like how much it's automating?
No, this is a good idea though. We should, I should have some of these handy. Um, I mean, the biggest thing is just yeah, you are saving on a couple of potentially up to multiple transactions per day. You're just saving on that. But I would say probably the biggest thing is like the peace of mind around liquidation. Um, Obviously, depending on how the strategy is set up, but like when AVAX pumped recently, like had you been naked running that strategy without Aperture, you potentially could have been liquidated depending on what your setup was. So that's something that's definitely helpful. You don't want to be beholden to liquidations. But in addition to that, obviously, auto compounding the rewards and all that stuff is infinitely beneficial for everyone.
Very cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah, great question, Stephen. Thanks for hopping in there. Lots of really great information shared today, and I know there's much more to dive into. So I really encourage everyone here to go and follow our speakers and their protocols and dive into all the information they have to offer to see how all these things work. But we'll definitely be dropping this Spaces recording on YouTube in the next few days, so you can go back and give it a listen. But as we wrap up here, want to just give you an opportunity, one final thought from each of you as we head out here, and then we'll let everyone head off into the night. So we'll go to Stephen, you want to hop in there first?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, just I just wanted to say thank you for the time and for the forum and for everyone joining. If there's anything like we can do to help, like always feel to reach out in the Pangolin Discord, app.pangolin.exchange for the app. And if you're a builder launching, please reach out to us. We're always happy to help and give some tips along the way, and advise wherever we can.
Yeah, I wanted to thank every person that joined as well, both from an audience perspective, but also as a speaker perspective. And it really means a lot. It's special that no matter sunshine or rain or underlying market conditions, we're here doing Twitter Spaces together, building and kind of being a part of one collective vision of pushing forward the crypto space and DeFi and kind of everything in that regard. So thank you again.
Just want to say thank you, Avalanche, for hosting this AMA, and also thank you all of the speakers. It's been a pleasure working with you guys, and looking forward to stronger partnerships between us. And also, if any partners or users are interested in collaborating and working with Alpha Homura, feel free to subscribe to our channel, both on Twitter, and join our community on Discord, and reach out to us. We're happy to support any questions, issues, and partnerships requests as well.
I'll leave a little alpha leak. Aperture, we have something fun coming up on the sort of pre-TGE NFT side. So we'll have an NFT launching before we TGE. I'll kind of leave it at that for now. But yeah, just follow the Aperture Twitter handle if you aren't already for more updates on that in the near future.
Yeah, go give it a follow. Thank you guys so much for joining us and for coming in and sharing your insight and telling us a little bit about your products and how they're all working together. And we're really looking forward to seeing the future of these partnerships and a lot of the strategies that are being built. And so, yeah, give them a follow, and we'll be back with more spaces this week. So thanks everybody for joining, and have a great night.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.